AC/DC's Back in Black album came out July 25th, 1980. And right now, today, yours truly, the Mouthpiece of the Northeast, Jimmy J, along with the 80s horror god, we're bringing you back to 1980. And we're still to thrill you all. Today, with this episode of RC65, my main guy, Jonny. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Oh, great now, man. Rocking over here. 1980, woo, year in review. This is the first time that we've done something like this. Hopefully, that music was bumping over there. Hopefully, they heard everything loud and clear through this microphone. But if they didn't, it's probably better that they're listening to AC/DC instead of me. I couldn't think of a better guest to have on, or better co-host, I should say, on the show than you, the 80s horror god himself. 1980, year in review in horror. First time we're doing something like this. I am excited to get into some of these films and some of the, pop culture, if you will, events that happened in 1980. But Sean, do you remember where you were in 1980?
Not really. I was 9, so.
Do you remember anything from that year? Anything that stands out?
I believe that's the first year that I watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So yeah, there's that.
9 years old? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's when I saw it. Nothing pops out, man. I mean, maybe some memories will get jogged here, but
well, you know what? I remember where I was. Somewhere in my father's, you know what, man? Definitely not even a thought. Okay, 1987, I was born in, so 7 years prior to that. I mean, so many things. When I looked up some of the films that came out, and I knew a few off the top of my head, the few big ones, but there were so many. And I feel like also in 1980, we had this boom of holiday horror. I was noticing. So like even some of the movies that came to my mind holiday wise in the year, Christmas Evil, New Year's Evil, Friday the 13th, these three movies, and I consider Friday the 13th a holiday. We all do as horror fans. Come on. So those three came out in 1980 itself. There's a ton of others that we're going to get into right now. But I wanted to talk before we get into the movies of 1980. I wanted to talk about some of the pop culture events that happened in that year. John Lennon was shot and killed in 1980. John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown, is sentenced to death after murdering 33 boys. That guy is infamous. We all know John Wayne Gacy. We're not even going to get into all that. But the U.S., the big thing that happened for us here, U.S. defeats the Soviets in hockey. All the hockey fans out there, not that I really care too much, but any hockey horror fans out there, the only hockey I like is Jason Voorhees himself. But yeah, hockey labeled a miracle on ice in 1980. The Rubik's Cube made its debut globally in May.
That I remember.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Did you get one? Were you trying to figure it all out?
I had one. I think I lasted about 90 seconds before I gave up on it every time. I don't get how these kids can do it in 3.2 seconds inside of a bag, but
Dude, I don't know, man. They're like geniuses. So it still is taking me a lifetime to figure it out.
If I could get one side the same color, that was a fucking achievement. That was an achievement.
Yeah, I was done. I'm like, all right, all reds, that's it, done.
Yep.
So not that this matters. Macaulay Culkin, born August 26, 1980 in New York. AC/DC, like I said earlier to start this episode, AC/DC's album Back in Black dropped July 25th, 1980. Some of the greatest hits, I feel like, on that album. Shoot the Thrill, Hell's Bells, Shook Me All Night Long, of course, Back in Black. But yeah, those are some of the events that happened in the world in this year. And, the most important thing that happened in 1980, I feel like, was the boom in horror in this genre. It was the slasher boom, and we entered the official, and I'm going to say it, the greatest decade, okay? The greatest decade for horror, period. I was talking about the resurgence of horror this decade, but 1980 filled with originality and, original concepts and slashers. What was your favorite movie from the 80s overall, horror-wise?
I mean, everybody's go-to is going to be Friday the 13th, but, there's a Maniac is definitely on top of my list, way up there. I think some other movies got, shadowed by Friday the 13th, Mother's Day.
Oh, yes.
Which was actually filmed in the same town as Friday the 13th. Big parts of it. So,
yeah,
you
wow.
know, but I think it's a transition year, you know, transitioning from 70s horror, which is 70s horror. A lot of it is like reality stuff to me, you know, like The Last House on the Left. You know, even like Halloween, you know, you could have some guy running around on Halloween night murdering people, Texas Chainsaw. You could have, you know, you could have a backwoods family somewhere, you know, cut people up and take a sausage out of them. Absolutely, you know, so it's more reality based, but you know, it transitioned, but you still had some, you know, some of that kind of stuff in the 80s. Had He Knows You're Alone, Don't Answer the Phone, you know, so you had the same, look at Black Christmas. I mean, come on, 100% that could happen, you know? So that's why I call it like, you know, reality, because those are things that could have really happened. Even Friday the 13th, you know, if you take away the element of Jason popping out of the lake, you know, you got some woman who's revengefully killed all these camp counselors because, you know, her son drowned in the lake and they weren't paying attention. Absolutely could happen.
Dude,
So you have that little twist at the end. You know, it's more along the same lines of a 70s horror.
like Freddy Krueger going to sleep. Obviously, that's not, you know, you're not going to, I'm not going to say you're not going to die in your sleep, because plenty of people have, but you know, you're going to have somebody that kills you in your dream and you really die in real life, but that's not realistic. But, you know, like you said, you think of Mrs. Voorhees, revenge. Okay. Good old fashioned revenge. These counselors were not watching her sweet little Jason. And what does she do after, you know, he drowned in the lake? She goes after them all and says, you know, now it's my turn. You know, so it's whacking the counselors here. I mean, listen, these things can happen. You're right. You talk Texas Chainsaw in the 70s. There are plenty of families, I'm sure. You go down deep down south, you're going to find some of them. Yeah, they'll take you home.
Even Maniac. I mean, Maniac has been lived out countless times. It's a straight up serial killer, you know. So
yeah,
you know, Richard Ramirez, Danny Rawling, the list goes on and on, man. That's a reality type movie, you know.
Oh, it is. And I've seen one guy in particular. I'm not even going to mention no names, but one guy in particular, he's on my friends list. And he looks like a grade A serial killer. Yeah. So, like, you know, I start to wonder. I mean, there's people out here. There's some weird people in the world. And then again, you ask the question, what is normal, you know? Especially for us horror fans. Like, we love this stuff. And then somebody out there, some psychologist has been like, well, this guy likes brutal murders on TV. Like, what's wrong with him? No, we just like, you know, we like the blood. We like the gore. We like the reality of it. We like to be scared. You know, we like that feeling. It's a rush.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a rush. And that's why, you know, I love horror. And that's why I know, you know, most of us love horror. And, you know, thinking about the transition, as you said, it was a transition year into the 80s and into the best decade of horror, period. I look at it like this is where the slashers started shining. 100%. You know, we've seen him, you know, we've seen the earlier movies, you know, that I believe you were talking about, other than Psycho, was Peeping Tom. You know, there was some of these other films. Texas Chainsaw, obviously, Black Christmas. Yeah. And damn, the list goes on in the 70s. But, you know, really it was the 80s that started booming this stuff. And Friday the 13th. What was that?
79, you got one of the most underrated horror films of all time, in my opinion. You have Tourist Trap, which is just insanely underrated. It's such a creepy movie.
Dude, you were telling me tell everybody about that one line in the movie that spooked you out a little bit.
Oh, no. It's the scene where he's got them all in the basement and Mr. Slauson, and he's got the one chick on the table and he starts putting the stuff over her face and just describes to her what's going to happen. You know, your heart's going to pop before you run out of breath and all that crazy stuff. I mean, it's just over the top creepy, man.
Yeah.
And just imagining, you know, laying there on that table while he's doing that to your face, and he's saying all these things, wearing this very disturbing mask and this very disturbing voice. You know, it's incredibly underrated, but it's definitely, in my opinion, I call it an 80s horror film. I mean, it's 79, but it's an 80s horror film. It's just an 80s slasher, man.
Yeah, you know, it's like that 79, like 80s, and even like 90. You know, you think about that, you know, those are movies that were made 89, you know, or filmed in 89 at least. So anywhere from, like, I believe the same thing with you, man, from 79 to 90, boom. You know, those movies that came out and that decade, 12 years, whatever you want to call it, we had some of the greatest horror films of all time filmed. And
You have,
yep.
you talk about Texas Chainsaw with the family, and look at Motel Hell.
Oh, Motel Hell, yeah.
Farmer Vincent's fucking putting human meat into his pepperoni sticks or whatever the heck his jerky that he's serving.
Yeah, dude. It's again, movies like Motel Hell, and
that's another one that's underrated. I mean, the end scene where he's wearing the pig costume with the freaking chainsaw is just badass, man.
And you see, this is the thing. This is why I love the In Search of Darkness documentary that came out about the 80s. There were so many movies that people didn't know. Even myself, I'm not going to say I'm the biggest horror fan out there. Like I know my stuff, but I know there's people out there that know way more than I do out there. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning about movies that I've never seen before. And that gave me an opportunity, as it did for many other people out there, to actually check out what other horror movies there are other than mainstream or commercial. And there really are some.
Well, I've said it once. I said it before, man. The mainstream stuff is great, but the other stuff is just so much better, man. I mean, Friday, I'll take Pieces over Friday the 13th any day, man.
Really?
Absolutely, man.
Oh, dude, many people be like, what, really? I mean, because Pieces, I feel like, is one of those movies that you either love it or you hate it. There's no in between. Because I've heard people talk like, oh, that movie's horrible. Super low budget. They didn't enjoy it. Then you have this hardcore fan base for it. So.
I mean, for me, I like the gore a lot more. So it's a lot more gory than, Friday the 13th. I mean, you got the chick chainsawed in half, and they show enough of it to make it pretty gory, And
that's the thing about the 80s too, practical effects. That's huge. And I think, if you have good CGI, fine, but I'll take practical. Sean, I'm with you, man. I will take practical any day of the week.
I'll take the worst 80s horror film, where it's like obvious or like using ketchup or something, over any CGI any day, man. It's just more fun.
It is. And it's horror. I mean, think of our genre, right? The genre that we all love, all us horror heads out here, all the goyles and ghouls. We love this genre. And what makes it, honestly, a part of it is the cheesiness sometimes. It's like the over-the-top one-liners or the practical effects that you can blatantly tell this is like created. This is not, it's and it puts more art into the genre if you think about it. Like Tom Savini's a mastermind creating some of these practical effects and whatnot. And you talk
greatest of all time.
Yeah, and you talk about like some of the movies that when you put it some of the 80s films 4K, you really can tell those effects and you really can see a difference. And one we were just talking about was Friday the 13th. It came out 1980. Okay. One of the biggest horror franchises of all time. And nobody knew it. It's a low budget film. But in that film, you could tell when Annie gets her throat slit by Mrs. Voorhees. Spoiler alert. Nobody had seen it if you're living under a rock. You see the discolorization. And
it's like gray, on her.
Yeah, it's like gray. So you can see that. And
so I'd rather watch it on DVD any day of the week, man. I got the Shout Factory, 2K, 4K box set. It's just disappointing to watch that, man. I mean, it's really blatant too. It's not like you have to look to see it. I mean, her neck is gray, man. So
rigor mortis is set in before she died.
You also have 1980, the film, regarded as that kicked it off for found footage, Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
that was a good one. And people don't know
that. And Eaten Alive, another cannibal film from 80. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Cannibal Holocaust is the GOAT when it comes to that stuff. But
I'm not a huge fan of those the cannibal movies, man. It really turns my stomach a lot, man. Like seriously. But you're right, Cannibal Holocaust. People don't know that the found footage, like like you said, that's the OG of it. Everybody goes to Blair Witch Project. And I know.
Many others.
Yeah, but see, that's the other thing. Like Blair Witch, you look at these movies like that, even found footage, but Blair Witch is one of those that either you love it or you hate it. There's a lot of backlash on that movie.
Here's where I stand with that, man. I watched it on VHS. Actually, Junior and I were talking about this the other day. When it was still believed that this was true. I didn't see it in the theater. And I'm in my living room about 3:00 in the morning, pitch dark. Now I'm an outdoors guy. I love the woods, blah, blah, blah. So we get to the scene where the one dude disappears and they wake up and they hear him screaming for help. Scared the shit out of me, man. I was like literally looking over the back of the fucking couch to see if somebody was there, man.
Oh shit! Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is I've rewatched it recently and it just didn't. It didn't have a lasting effect. I was kind of bored watching it. The first time, scared the fucking shit out of me. And again, everybody's was still under the perception that this might be real found footage.
Yeah. And but how they promoted it was genius, though. That's the
absolutely
whole
genius, and that's the main reason it was. It was sold. They sold the fact that it was. They dug this shit up somewhere in the woods and found it.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, man. That's when you think of found footage and stuff like that, the eerie element to it is how it's recorded. Like it's found footage. I mean, the camera moving as you move. Get off topic here. We're going to get right back to 1980, but just thinking about more found footage I just watched was Hell House LLC Origins. Dude, I know you probably haven't seen it yet, but you have to go watch it. It's creepy as hell.
I'm not a big fan of the first one, man.
No. If you have any spare time, take a look at it. I know we're going to be getting Steve Cognetti and the two leads in that movie on the show in the next couple of weeks, so we'll talk about it then. But definitely, guys, go see that film, found footage wise. But back to 1980. You brought out a lot of good movies, Sean. You brought up Maniac. Don't go out tonight. Don't get scalped. Come on.
I warned you not to go out tonight. In the 70s, you had all the animals and creatures. So that was kind of continued with Alligator, which is amazing. You have Humanoids from the Deep, which I have an infinity for sea creatures. I don't know what it is. I think it's my love of Creature from the Black Lagoon. But anything in the ocean that's coming out and killing, I'm a big fan of. But we're forgetting two big ones. Actually, we're forgetting a huge one. First of all, The Shining.
Yes, you took it. Yeah, you got it.
And then we're forgetting The Fog.
Oh, another one with Jamie Lee too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have a lot of Jamie Lee. You have Terror Train.
Terror Train.
A lot of Jamie Lee going on that year.
Jamie Lee Curtis was dominating that year. If you look at it, like you said, Terror Train. It was Prom Night.
I would say when was Prom Night? 80.
Yeah, it was 1980.
Yeah.
And you know what creeped me out about Terror Train? That ending, that showdown that they had. I was just like anxious.
Man, I was so busy, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
3 fucking movies in 1 year came out. I don't even know if there's any more, but if there is, that's insane.
I mean, you think right after this is 2 years after Halloween, 1978. So you got to figure they seen that. They're like, okay, that's it. That's what really catapulted her career.
I don't think she was in anything in between those.
No.
I don't know which one was first as far as release dates. I don't know which one was first.
She probably, that's a good question. I could look that up momentarily. Terror Train. I think it was Terror Train.
Oh, I was going to guess The Fog, but I mean, like I said, that's a total guess. Yeah. I'm not too sure of the time frame of the release dates on those.
Yeah, so with Terror Train, it looks like it was released. Oh yeah, that might have been the last one, October 3rd, 1980. That's when it was released. I think The Fog. You might be right, Sean. The Fog came out, and February 1st.
There you go.
Yep, there it is. So February 1st.
There's another one that I don't know if it's like overlooked or not too many people seen called Dead and Buried.
Yes, Dead and Buried.
I was trying to think of the name of that movie for so long. Sean happened to mention it that he watched a movie. Like, what'd you watch? He's like, I watched a movie called Dead and Buried. And I was like, is that the one with the mortician and everybody's zombies and stuff? He's like, yeah, that's it. I was like, holy shit. I've been trying for so long to remember that movie. And, he's a little encyclopedia himself. So he helped me out with that one. Yeah,
we got to get Sean Jr. on the show. You got to bring him on, man. That kid is a genius, man. He reminds me of the other young horror head, Brandon Gonzalez, man. They study, like they watch these movies, they study them. And I'm so proud, Sean, because it's the next generation. It's the youth that actually knows their stuff.
Yeah.
And he knows more than me, I'm sure, probably. from the 80s. I mean, like Brendan does. When I was listening to some of the facts that he knew, I'm like, wow, it just blew my mind, man. You know, because me, I watch it as a horror fan. I watch it to watch it, right? Your son, Sean Jr. and Brendan, they dig and they study and they research.
I mean, he watches the newer stuff, but he's into so much 70s horror, man. He comes up with titles, and I'm like, where the hell did you find that, man?
It brings a tear to a glass eye. I've said that many times. No, really, just to see like.
I couldn't be happier, man.
Yeah, oh, I know you're a proud father. Yeah, man. And Sean Jr., he's awesome kid too, man. Part of the extended Horror 365 family. And you know, I think about going back to some of the movies you were talking about. Back to the Terror Train thought that I had in mind. That ending, man, when she's in that cage and that showdown, I was so anxious, Sean. Like that got me. My heart was literally racing. When I seen that for the first time, my heart was like racing. Like I was nervous for her. And that's how you know a movie really hits you.
No doubt.
When you can feel something towards it. And and there were plenty of movies from the 80s, but like even 1980, you brought up Cannibal Holocaust turns my stomach. Really. Maniac 2, even Joe Spinell. This is a guy that just came off in the 70s playing in Rocky 1 and 2. And here he is, a maniac over here. And you know what's crazy about it? Not a fun fact, but a fact. You know how he passed away?
Yeah, he had that thing, if it gets cut, he bleeds an awful lot, and he slipped in the shower or something, and then he bled out before he could even make it to the phone, man.
He bled out, yeah, man.
Damn shame.
It is a shame, man. That guy, I would have loved to have
what that's hemo something. I forgot the medical term for it, but yeah, he literally bled to death before he could get to the phone to call somebody, man. That's insane. I think as far as Cannibal Holocaust, I mean, I know it's like super gory, which I obviously love. The gorier the better, but the one thing that kind of upsets me with the cannibal films is the people, the animal abuse. But listen, that's a way of life. These places still exist.
Yeah,
there's places on this planet where you go as an American or any other country, you go on the islands, you're done. You're gonna be in a fucking pot. And they eat turtles and they eat this, but that's they never seen a TV, they never seen a cell phone. That's their way of life, man. I mean,
do you think there's still places in the world like that?
Yeah, there is.
Where on the map is that?
I can't remember the name. There's an island somewhere. I can't remember the name of
the
island.
You've been to this island?
Which one?
You've been to this island?
Absolutely not.
So how do you know?
It was about 7-8 years ago. I can't remember the time frame. There was 2 or 3 evangelists that thought they were going to be slick, go up there on the island and talk to these people. They didn't make it back.
You know what? And that's the thing, man. Like, you think about that. Think about how good we have it over here in the U.S.
Natzino Island is one of them. Oh, here's one I was thinking of.
What was the name?
North Sentinel Island.
Where is it?
It's North Sentinel Island. Have almost no contact with the world outside their island. Nothing. And they're cannibals.
Dude, you know what, man? I believe you. I believe it out there. There are some weird places in this world.
I'm not going to name no names, man, but I know like of cannibals that are like, I mean, people that eat people like.
No.
Yeah.
You know what where the hell is this?
I mean, I don't know them personally. I do have I'll cover up the name of the author here, but I do have, how the hell do I do this?
There it is.
I do have the Cannibal Cookbook.
If
you ever,
oh my God. Listen, if you want to give somebody a hand, give them the Cannibal Cookbook over there, and we'll
if you don't have that in your library, you're not doing it right.
Jesus Christ, man! What's on the table for Thanksgiving? Femurs?
They're all serial killer inspired recipes.
Well, I wonder where they got their inspiration from. Probably Ted Bundy, Gacy.
Everybody's in there.
Buffalo Bill. No. Oh man, that's the thing that gets you. Like people that really, again, I said it before.
Just for the official record, I don't eat human meat, and I never have, even though I have the cookbook.
I was a little worried. I was worried about that. I'm starting to question you now, Sean. No wonder why. When we had the team meeting, the team dinner, you really didn't. You went for the chicken parm, but you were looking for something else. I thought, man. I thought you were looking.
That's just for entertainment purposes.
No, I know. Yeah, we're joking. We're joking. Sean's not a cannibal, but he does his research. We know where they eat people, so stay the hell off that island. Like I said, as long as it ain't. What island was that again? You said
North Sentinel Island. I'm not sure if that's what I'm thinking of, where the where those three evangelists went to. I forget the time frame. It might have been like 10 years ago, but yeah, that was in the news. They rolled up there in boats, and I don't think they lasted 5 minutes on the island before they were disposed of.
Well, North Sentinel Island and Epstein Island. Stay off those islands. That's it. You don't want to be part of anything that's going on over there. But from cannibals now to madmen, maniacs. We talked about Joe Spinell. Switching from maniac, mad guys, The Shining, Jack Nicholson. Okay, and this is another thing that could really happen. People just going crazy, going mad. You think the Overlook Hotel,
especially in that scenario, yeah.
This movie was it's legendary. I feel like in the horror genre, it's one of those films. Stephen King had wrote it. Stanley Kubrick directed this one. I think there was a disagreement. Like King didn't like his version, Kubrick's version of it.
I think there was something about, I don't remember all the details on that, but
there was something going on. But I know on set too, there was some horrific things happening from what I, found out with the young lady that played Wendy, which name slips my mind. I don't know why. This hotel, the Stanley Hotel, is actually haunted in the middle of nowhere, pretty much. I had nightmares when I watched The Shining. I don't know why. It creeped me the hell out. This guy going nuts.
The woman in the one room.
Yes. Oh man, that's what I was about to say.
Like the twins don't bother me. No. That one woman, but just so we don't, Shelley Duvall is the actress.
Shelley Duvall. Thank you. I can't believe I forgot her name, man. Jeez. And I call myself a horror fan. Yeah, Shelley Duvall. She also played Olive Oil in Popeye, which is also the same year, I believe, 1980.
Diverse actress.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the fucking do this. The range is crazy, but but incredible cast like Jack Nicholson. That man he's crazy in real life, so he definitely fits the role. Okay, and he didn't need to do much acting. I felt like
not at all
in there, man. But like some of the iconic scenes. Like him going upstairs with the bat. Like, I'm not going to hurt you. Well, she had the bat. She's going to bash your brains in. Some of those lines in the movie.
That's my favorite one. And
then right through the door with the axe. That iconic image. We got that image of his face in the door, that psychotic look.
That was breathing. He had to break like 60, 70 doors just to get that scene.
Dude, because how many takes? How many takes did it take? I mean, this guy must have left there with a real pump, man. That's a workout. This guy's juiced up after that, man. Jack Nicholson's brolic right after filming that. But yeah, there was the creepy element. That woman, got me too. And just the vibe. It was very ominous in the music, the scores. That was another thing about movies in the 80s and horror movies, I think, in general back then.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Yeah, I mean, it does a lot, man.
It adds that layer, that extra layer.
I think it got really creative. I mean, outside of Halloween, I mean, there's nothing off the top of my head that really stands out as a soundtrack that you can recall. Some of them were cookie cutter. I mean, even with you have Friday the 13th, and Harry Manfredini also did The Children.
Yeah.
Which Harry Manfredini is a god in my opinion, but the soundtrack to The Children just sounds like the scraps that he didn't want to use in Friday the 13th to me, because the first time I seen it, before I even knew it was Harry Manfredini, when I first time I saw The Children, I'm like, this sounds like freaking Friday the 13th score. And I looked it up, and it was Manfredini. So I don't know what the deal with that was, but it's extremely close to where you think you're watching Friday the 13th.
I noticed that about a lot of Harry's work. It's very similar, and no offense to him, it has that same or a similar sound effect, that screeching a high pitch sound, and like he had, it was piercing, and in Friday the 13th, like that sound. Oh man, but again, it was very unique and different, and that stood out. It's not a soundtrack I would listen to often. I mean, you think about some horror movies, and rock and horror, they're like synonymous. When you think of the 80s, you think the big ones, Dokken, Dream Warriors. Okay.
No, but you even have like full soundtracks, like Shocker is a kick-ass one.
Shocker. That's another one.
Trick or Treat, the band Fastway, man.
Yeah.
Even today, if the vinyl from that comes up, it's like $50-$60 for a used copy. It's nuts.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then, like we're talking, what is it, Alice Cooper? I mean, again, Man Behind the Mask, Friday the 13th Part 6, which again, the greatest Friday the 13th film, I think, in my opinion. And then of course Teenage Frankenstein from there. But music in horror, man, it's so important to the film, so important to the genre. It just creates that atmosphere, the horrific atmosphere, and it builds to that climax in the payoff from when either somebody's getting killed in the movie or, the suspense.
It builds suspense.
Yes, it builds suspense. Yeah. And then, or killers chasing somebody, like, it adds that layer that we need. And, you think about The Shining too, it's just very eerie, man. That music, I think, really set it over the top, because if you think about it, take out the music for the movie. What is it really going to do? I mean, yeah, okay, there's a madman going crazy. It's not going to be as scary or as creepy or, I think, as legendary as it was. So definitely a big part.
Look at what Manfredini did with Friday the 13th. He's got that real serene music going on when Alice is floating around in the boat.
Yeah.
And then, and he suckered you right in, man. He hit you, hit you with the 1-2 punch when Jason comes up out of the lake, man. Yeah. So without that, it would have been, nowhere near the impact.
Yeah. I mean, just try watching, even on like, mute doesn't make sense, but like, if you think about it, you take out the music to a lot of these horror films, it's not going to be the same. Definitely not. So,
and there's some average films that the score for them is just amazing. I think it's 1982. There's a one called The Forest. It's an okay horror film. It's worth a watch.
Never seen it.
But the score to me is just kick ass, man. It's really good.
Oh, dude, you know what? I got a couple vinyls, a couple soundtrack vinyls. I'm sure you have way more than I do for horror films, and it's something, like I said, it's so important to the film. The music, the scores, it builds it. It takes it to that next level. And I think, again, 1980, Friday the 13th and The Shining, those are the two that really stand out, as far as like themes go and music goes. But I'm trying to think of other films that came out in that year. I mean, we talk about the holiday horror, New Year's Evil, Christmas Evil. Why? In my mind, I was wondering why 1980 did everybody decide to make a holiday horror movie? I mean,
I think they were just trying to, do something different other than, your basic run-of-the-mill killer running around the woods or something like that. Man, I don't know. Christmas Evil, to me, I absolutely love Christmas Evil, man. I love that movie. It's kind of, it's not till a few years later, but Silent Night, Deadly Night, to me, this guy is the opposite. He loves Christmas so much, and he's kind of punishing those that aren't, that are naughty, you know what I mean? That he just loves it so much. As opposed to, Billy was afraid of it because of what happened with his parents, But I don't know. A lot of people tell me it's a snore fest, but it's a story, man. And there's a build up there with Christmas Evil, and New Year's Evil is just a slasher, but it's a different story. He's got a thing going on with the every time the clock strikes midnight in a different time zone, he's taking somebody out of the game.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. Like stories, you have to have a good story. I feel like for a horror movie to be catapulted to that next level. And we've seen, if you look at it, like, I mean, you got yours that are I'm just going to hack people for no reason, kind of slashers and stuff like that in the 80s. But you have ones like we just talked about earlier with Friday the 13th. You talk about revenge. A mother, taking out these counselors because her son got killed because of them not watching, them not paying attention, doing their job. And, then you think about something like The Shining, substance-wise, it's a guy that goes crazy in a remote location, just cabin fever, pretty much, and starts losing his mind there. Whether it was demons in there, spirits or whatever, possessing him, it was just his own mind. After this year, after 1980, with all the holiday horror movies that started coming out, with all the slashers, we had that big, boom of horror. Everybody and their mom started making horror films after this in the 80s. And we had some really good ones, and we had some ones that really just shit the bed. And I know we're going to get to other years down the line. And
Well, I was going to say, like, not to flip the years here, but like, the opposite of what you're saying or what you're speaking to is, I think it's 82. There's a one called Final Exam.
Yeah.
And I watched it, maybe a year or two ago, and I actually watched it again last night. It's kind of bizarre, you have that prank in the beginning where they're staging a shooting, which wouldn't even make it to the screen these days. But my problem with the movie, what I love about the film is the kills are pretty damn good in it.
Yeah.
But to me, there's no explanation as to why he's doing what he's doing. There's none. I'm just like, and it just ends. It just ends with him being killed. He's an escape patient. Give me some sort of substance. Let me know why this guy's on this rampage, other than there's this guy running around a college campus, slaughtering people. Which I'm into. It's cool to watch, but I want to know why.
You want some sort of a story behind it. I mean, at least give something. Like even Terror Train did that. Like the guy got made fun of a bad prank or whatever. Yeah, and then it got his revenge. Like give us something. I mean, it's great every now and then to watch something like that, just because for the kills. And I think that's what became big in the 80s was people focused on the kills. And how can we be over the top? And then even like 81, I believe it's 81 with Scanners. The guy's brain, just his whole head exploded. That was nuts, man. And, we started getting these over the top kills in the 80s because of this. And, we drifted away from the story, because we had movies in the even 60s, 70s, horror films with substance.
Well, you have ones, and they'll go back to Mother's Day. There's really no story. They're just some crazy motherfuckers, which you understand that. So that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing, because they're just some crazy lunatics living out in the woods,
So what I think, and you're right, and what I think, what 80 did, 70 set it up, right? 70s was the 70s, was the prelude to what was to come in the 80s.
No doubt.
And I feel like after Friday the 13th in 1980, that's when we started getting this big boom. And I think that's what inspired also a lot of other films like The Burning, we seen in 81.
Complete ripoff.
Oh, 100%, man. And like even Nightmare on Elm Street, like Wes was getting ideas from Halloween back in 78. And then
there's a laundry list of
there's so many movies
that are copycats of Friday the 13th, man.
I know. I guess that comes the closest, like you just stated, was The Burning, because it was almost fucking identical, dude. It's just the killer was different. It was.
And every time I tell people I don't like that movie at all, and it's not for that reason. I just don't like that movie.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of that film. No.
It just takes way too long before somebody gets whacked, and the only part that I enjoy is when that loudmouth jock dude,
bitch, yeah, he gets it.
God, I can watch it on replay just over and over, man. That's the only part of the movie I enjoyed.
Yeah, no, me too. I was not a fan of that film like that.
I'm not either.
They have a cult following for that, just like they do with we talk about another movie that, again, legendary. It has a cult following, and it's original. It's My Bloody Valentine, 1981. Harry Warden. I mean, again, so many great films in the 80s. I don't want to get into the other years because I know we're going to be talking. What we're doing here, this is the first time that we're doing something like this, and we're having kind of like a year in review of horror. And I want to save some of the other years, some of the other facts for that. I mean, I was trying to pull up some facts. It was kind of hard to do some research on some of these movies from this year, other than the big ones, other than, obviously The Shining and Friday the 13th. And we know the main facts. Friday the 13th was a low budget film that just blew up. Incredible practical effects by Tom Savini. And then, of course, The Shining, what we talked about, the hotel being really haunted. There's, even to this day, I think there's people that stay over there, ghost hunters and whatnot, been there. Of course, Jack Nicholson's clinically insane. We know that. And then, Stanley Kubrick. And that's a whole, we have a whole episode on The Shining itself, man, from the stories from behind the scenes about what happened filming that thing. It was pretty damn horrific. That's a horror story in itself. And what Shelley Duvall, thank you for getting her name, what she had to go through on set. And then, Jamie Lee Curtis's boom in 1980, just those three films The Fog, which we didn't really discuss. The Fog, Terror Train, Prom Night. She really, her career catapulted, man, right after Halloween. And dude,
No, I mean, she even broke out of horror with Trading Places. Trading Places and other things like that. So
yeah, she just started expanding. Her range became crazy. But you know what I love about Jamie Lee is that I don't care what anybody says about her. She still stayed true to her roots. And obviously, maybe, okay, we can say it's a payday, it's a paycheck, but she still was filming, for Halloween up till most recent, which I'm not even going to mention, that dumpster fire of a film that was horrible, man. Halloween Ends. But anyway.
I mean, the second one, she got paid lots and lots of money to lay in a hospital bed. So,
dude, I really thought she was gonna.
Again.
Yeah, I know there was, but just having her in that franchise, it's iconic. I mean, you think this is a woman, 78, and dude, we're going to 2028. It's 50 years, dude. Okay, it's been over 40 years, 45 years. It was this past year. Crazy. Just to think about it, and the fact that she's still going, she's still acting, and this movie still is iconic. But you know what I do think, Sean, that Halloween 78, and I know I'm going to get crucified for this. I've said this before. It's a little bit overrated. It's a little bit overrated. I really enjoyed the second part. I really enjoyed part 2. I just spoke about this last week on an episode with Hollywood Mark Schwann. And we were talking about this, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's because there was more action, I felt like, in the second one, and it was more sense of urgency, and the whole town was getting involved, and Michael seemed a little more vicious in this one. That's why I enjoyed the second film in 81, that's another great year. Dude, I got to tell you, when we talk 1981, there are so many good horror films that came out that year that I really
just
be able to do justice.
Just as many bad ones that Friday the 13th spawned, it also spawned, lots of good ones that followed in the footsteps. So, which are 81.
What was your favorite horror film in 1980?
It's got to be Friday the 13th, I guess. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be everybody. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a slasher and gore guy, so I mean, Maniac is way up there.
I would love to see Frank Zito in a barbershop.
I mean, Savini's work in Maniac is way better than it is in Friday the 13th, man.
That dude, yeah, I gotta agree with you. See, that it's criminally underrated, man. That film, I feel like Maniac, and not enough people know about it. I think it's some of his best work he's done. Period. In Maniac, I mean,
probably my second favorite. My favorite work from him is The Prowler.
Yeah, and again, another one I believe is 1981.
Yeah, 81. It's the pitchfork scene in the beginning, and then the knife that goes through the head, and the kill in the pool. Yeah. It's just amazing. It's just nuts what he did in that movie.
You can't honestly, Sean. I can't think of another guy, and I'm sure there are other individuals that are talented. Even up your most recent Damien Leone with his practical effects. I think personally, I know he's done a great job with some of the Terrifier movie kills and whatnot. But when you think of practical and horror movie effects, Tom Savini is number one on that list, man. I don't know.
Always will be.
Yeah, I don't know anybody else that has done it like him for as long as he has, for as many movies as he has.
Countless.
What is it? I think it was Night of the Living Dead. It was Dawn of the Dead, right? I believe.
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. Excuse me. Dawn of the Dead. He was in 78. Another, again, prelude to the 80s. And then, you talk about 80s, like, we'll get there. 80s zombie movies we're going to get into. Of course, I've seen that poster, I think, on the back behind you, Return of the Living Dead. Dude, incredible, man. And
now his acting is something else, but
I'll take him in the Creep Show opening of part 2.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a movie about people making snuff films that he's in. I think he plays like this asshole guy, and it's just so bad, man.
Some people may say that they ain't far from the real guy, because
I prefer him in the cameos. What the hell's what's the one with is that George Romero's Land of
the Dead?
Land of the Dead. Yeah, he does a cameo in there. I prefer those roles. He does the cameo in Dawn of the Dead. He's one of the biker guys, I think.
Yeah.
you know, but when he's it's just, when he's like on a main role where he doesn't do a lot of talking, yeah.
Yeah, no, Tom, please stick to effects and stick to cameos. We love you, but please. For the love of God, I know you want to add more of a horror element to the movie, but please stick to practical effects and cameos. But yeah, you're right, Sean. I mean, but think about Tom. He's legendary regardless. If you love him, hate him,
You said before, like you don't think like a lot of people know Maniac. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are aware of it.
you've never seen it, probably.
But in my opinion, there are just so many people that don't want to step out of the mainstream horror bubble. They just stay in Freddy, Michael, Jason, Chucky, Ghostface. They don't want to dive, man. And it's a great gateway, but you know you're not officially legit until you step outside of there and start exploring some of this other stuff, man. You know.
And dude, there's so many.
That's just my opinion, you know.
No, you're right.
You can't live in the mainstream franchises your whole life, man. You gotta, if you like that, you know, go further. Find some other stuff you like.
Dude, you bought another one out before, man. No, you think about one of the greatest, if not the greatest directors, filmmakers of all time, Wes Craven. Okay. This man created masterpieces. And again, something else I just brought up last episode. Wes, I believe, my opinion, is the best director in horror, period. He had two major franchises. He had Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream. But he made so many other great standalone films. One of them I talked about, The People Under the Stairs, 91, but you mentioned one.
Rawhead Rex, baby.
Oh, come on, dude. Yeah.
Rawhead Rex is my shit. That's one of the most bizarre looking creatures or monsters in horror, man. But it's an awesome movie, you know, and it's some weird stuff going on, you know, baptism by urine and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, this is why we love horror, just the outlandish shit that happens in these movies, man. And over the top, just like things that, you know, this is why, you know, you question why, but it's so entertaining too. And you know, you brought up the movie I was saying, Shocker. Wes Craven, 1989.
Which one?
Shocker.
Oh yeah, Shocker.
Yeah, dude, that's another 80s, late 80s movie, another incredible film. Wes Craven, underrated as hell, criminally underrated. I mean, dude, there's so many of these films, and like you said, you got to step outside that comfort zone. You got to check out these other films. Start exploring. I mean, look, I understand. You want to stick with what you know. You think major franchises, that's the way to go. And then the major standalone films, a lot of people go to Dawn of the Dead, you know, Day of the Dead and stuff like that. And when it comes to zombies, and check out some of these obscure horror movies, Sean, and that this guy right here knows, 80s horror guy. And you know what you have to do if you want to stay up to speed with everything 80s horror, you got to check out Sean, like and follow the 80s Horror Spook Show on Facebook. Sean got you covered. You're dropping movies that I don't even know, dude, sometimes. And I'm looking here, I'm like, you know, this is awesome. This is like it puts a new movie on my list. And I started to make this list of horror movies, and a lot of horror fans have been doing this too after In Search of Darkness had came out. And you start making that list of the watch list. But I got a couple movies from what you have going on over there as well, Sean.
The In Search of Darkness, you know, I've watched a lot of it. I got my own like journey going on with, you know, exploring the 80s horror, man. And the further you go, the more you find, man. It's just, I have about 700 physical copies of movies, and I mean, 85% of it at least is pre-1990. You know, it's just.
Yeah, that's.
But again, it's just, I keep finding more and more and more. It just goes on, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what? There's so many, man, and not even, we didn't even touch on the foreign horror films. One of the movies that didn't come out in '80, Zombie. I think it was like Zombie 2 as well. One of the craziest kill scenes.
Phenomenal.
Oh my God, I can't watch it. It was the slow burn
let's
to
talk
it.
about we're getting away from 1980, but like you're saying, you know, the foreign stuff in the 80s, Demons and Demons 2, man.
Oh yeah.
Argento, you know.
Yeah, another mastermind, horror mastermind, and it's
Zombie 2 is 79, right?
I think 79, and that again one of the most iconic kill scenes, and I just
so damn good, man.
That fucking right through the eye, bro, and it just the way it happened and the slow, my heart was racing. I'm like screaming at the TV screen.
The way that the dirt comes off the zombies and the way the special effects on that is just phenomenal.
Ahead of its time, 100%. I felt like, but yeah, a lot of movies, a lot of effects that really help the movie. And I think overall with horror, because we don't have, not all these movies have substance. A lot of it is just slash and kill people. That's it. It comes down to the kills. It comes down to the effects and the music that could really make or break a movie here. And speaking of which, kills. Let's think. In 1980, what was your favorite kill in 1980?
I think one of the most fun ones is when Tom Savini does himself in with the when Maniac shoots him with the shotgun through the window. Man, that's
yeah.
That's
There's so many that come to my mind, but I guess I'm gonna stay with the OG, man. I'm staying with Friday the 13th. Pamela Voorhees decapitation.
Oh, top of the food chain right there.
Yeah, bro. That head rolling, heads will roll, and it did at Crystal Lake that night. It was I didn't see that when the first time I seen that film. I did not see that coming there. But that fight scene,
absolutely
with Pamela Voorhees, that was just a real struggle. It felt real. That was one of my favorite fight scenes in 80s, other than the terror train, like I talked about.
Oh, I thought you were going to go somewhere else, man. You had me worried for a second.
Why? What do you think I was saying?
I thought you were going to talk about the fight scene in They Live, man. Jesus Christ.
No. That scene was so over the top, bro. Oh. It was so long. It was so drawn out. It was like a wrestling match. Rowdy Piper, man. Yeah.
It's like 20 minutes long, man. It feels like 3 hours.
I just want to reenact that at an event sometime.
Oh my God. I mean, I read or saw somewhere that Roddy Piper was just telling, I forget the other actor's name, unfortunately, off the top of my head, but at one point I think Roddy just told him just to start punching me for real.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He's like, I'm just so bored with this. Just start hitting me.
Was it Keith David?
Yeah, Keith David.
Keith David, yeah. So yeah, dude,
I met him too, and I forgot his name already. Jesus Christ,
another legend, and his voice too, the good voice actors. But yeah, Keith David, man, and Piper going at it. That scene is it's legendary.
I fast forward through it now, man. When I watch it, I can't.
I'm not going to get into that scene because
I can't do it anymore.
No, but overall, though, it's another great film. John Carpenter, his mastermind, again ahead of his time. That film and what he spoke on. A lot of social commentary there. And
well, I mean, again, we're stepping away from 1980, but They Live. It fits into today.
Yeah.
When they just showed that in the theaters last year, John Carpenter did a little thing beforehand, and he's like, it's very relevant. Even it's more relevant today, I think he said, than it is when he released it.
Yeah.
With the way everything is, and
yeah, and I agree with you, man, 100%. And it's just the way they push things on us, what this world is about. I mean, again, that's a movie that you and we should definitely have a review on that particular film. But, again, talking about 1980 overall, I guess, for me, looking back, because I wasn't born before that, or I don't remember anything from 80, but like looking back on the year and doing some research on it, like even what we spoke about.
Actually, I just came across it. That movie I was talking about with Tom Savini is from 1980. It's called Effects.
And Effects. Oh my God! I got to
play a character called Nikki. Yep, that's it. It's a horror cult film. It's tough.
Yeah, I gotta take a look at the movie now. Effects, 1980. Tom
Effects.
Savini.
Yeah.
All right, mark that down.
I just came across on my way. I think that's the one with Savini in it.
We talk, and other than horror, going back to some of the facts that happened, some of the pop culture facts that happened in 1980. John Lennon shot to death. John Wayne Gacy sentenced to death after murdering 33 boys. The Miracle on Ice happened. Soviets got defeated by the U.S. The Rubik's Cube made its debut in 1980. Macaulay Culkin, who cares, but somebody does out there. He wasn't home alone yet because he was just born August 26, 1980. And then AC/DC's Back in Black album, one of the greatest albums, I think, of all time, rock-wise. Hell's Bells, Shoot the Thrill, Shook Me All Night Long, and, of course, Back in Black on that album. Came out July 25th, 1980. A lot of things happened in 80, but it set the stage, Sean, for the rest of that decade. And we see the big boom in horror, and it was definitely a memorable year, and I can't wait to get into some of the late 80s years. But overall, buddy, I think that about wraps it up for this review, 1980. I know I felt like, we could have did a little more justice on, not you, but me, a little more justice on the year, but I was digging for some facts and I didn't come across a lot, man. I just gotta, I'm gonna have to find my information maybe elsewhere.
Some of the obscure stuff you gotta really dig.
Yeah.
Man.
That's what I was saying. Cause we all know the mainstream stuff. We all know, Friday the 13th, Shining, but like some of the other films I was trying to dig for, but like you said, effects, that's one right there. Tom Savini. But yeah, so I appreciate your time, brother. If there's anything you want to plug, I know we were talking about the Spook Show, everything 80s. That's where you go, guys. Sean, the 80s horror god himself, he is one of the core four, if you will, one of the main members of Horror 365 here. He helps out on the show. I appreciate all your help, buddy. I really do. And we're taking this Horror 365 to a whole other level. The new era of Horror 365 is here. But Sean also runs the 80s Spook Show, everything 80s. Check him out. Like, follow, subscribe. It's original content from original movies and more in the 80s. Sean, thanks so much, brother, for that time. And next time, I'm telling you, there's so many other good years. I know we're going to have a two-parter on some of these 80s years, dude, especially 87, 81. Those are the two big years, I think, in my mind.
81, that is going to be a big one, yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. A lot of movies, a lot of standalone films that I want to review as well. But Horror Heads, thank you for following. Thank you for tuning in. Listen to these melodious tones piping through your speakerphone. If you haven't done so already, follow us on Facebook at Horror Heads 365. And, of course, click that subscribe button below and ring, bang, that notification bell. All horror, all the time, 365, baby. We got a big year coming up for you. We had Ken Sagos to start off the season. We got some more guests for you lined up in store in the future. And, of course, all of us getting together, the Horror Heads here. Every Wednesday, make sure you tune into Facebook. Every single Wednesday night, it is going down live exclusively on Facebook. We're going to be talking about different horror news, the latest horror news, and horror topics. In this past week that just happened, we had a Final Girl conversation, okay? And this upcoming week, there's more coming. Stay tuned. A lot of topics to be discussed. A lot of news going to be dropped every single Wednesday night exclusively on the Facebook. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Sean, thank you for your time, buddy. Any last words, anything you want to plug?
No, we're good.
All right, said it all myself, but here we go, guys. We're going to see you next week. Thank you for celebrating horror, not only in October, but 365. We'll see you next week.